Morning, the old man here, April 18th, 2025. Lots of interesting things going on in the world right now, obviously. For those that are paying attention to stocks and bonds and gold and silver, silver's kind of quiet, but I think, there's a reason for it being quiet, but that's beside the point. Some of the things going on around here, looking at, got to get some chickens, or well, not chicken. Yeah, I do. I need to get some roosters butchered that I haven't got around to yet. I got to get some drakes butchered. I got way too many drakes to the point I think they're pressuring the hens so much that the hens aren't even laying, and they should be laying by now. But at any rate, got to get them in the freezer. Here in May, first part of May, we should be getting a cow, purchasing a whole cow and getting it butchered. Then I'm going to be working on getting a lot of the, well, most if not all the Hamburg all canned up, shoring up the preps there, making sure everything basically is in order as best as I can. Rotating some older stuff out, getting new stuff in. When it comes to gold and silver, there's a lot of guys out there looking at gold and saying, man, it's way too expensive. We got to be somewhere near top. I even heard this guy say today, and I think he hit it on the nose, a lot of people saying, boy, I wish back in 2000, 2001, I'd have been buying gold at 300 instead of 3,300. Well, the thing about it is, it's just a harder decision back in 2001 to buy it at 300 as it is today at 3,300. The fact of the matter is that $300 would buy the same basket of goods that 3,000 or 3,300 would buy today. So actually, it's no more difficult today to purchase gold at 3,300 than it is at 300 was back then. It's the same decision, and that's a decision we got to make. I think a lot of people playing the stock game are going to get fooled. I don't know if that's, anybody out there that's listening to me at all. But with their recency bias, they think, you got to buy the dip. That's what they've been told. That's what's worked for the last at least 25 years, probably even more. Since the dot-com bubble. Now we're into an everything bubble. I almost hate to use that term. Seems to be overused, but honestly it is. Obviously we're in a debt crisis. We're in a money crisis, a currency crisis, not a money crisis, but a currency crisis. In other words, fiat currency has met its end, I believe. I know a lot of people have said that for years, but this time, with all the bubbles, we've got a housing crisis, we've got a commercial property crisis, we got a stock crisis, and with all those things adding up, if you think about it, in the past, you would buy gold for any one of those reasons, not alone all of those reasons. To me, it almost seems like a no-brainer, to buy gold. And if you need to shift things around and you've been buying stocks, obviously, and if you're doing it yourself, that's one thing. You need to be thinking about, hey, this has worked for 25 years, but everything's changing around me, and I need to take a look at those changes, because if I don't, that's going to bite me in the ass, and it really is. And if you've got a portfolio manager and he isn't getting you into gold at all, then all he's doing, he's out playing golf, and when this fucker crashes, he's going to say, oh, I didn't see it coming. Nobody's seen it coming. Bullshit. I'll tell you right now, I see it coming. So don't say nobody's seen it coming. I seen lots of people wrecked in 2008. I wasn't in the stock market then. I'm not in the stock market now. Fact of the matter is, I don't like counterparty risk. I don't like the fact that even if you're in a stock market, all you have is digits on a screen. You don't have a stock certificate. And yes, those stocks, even in the good companies, can go to zero. If your stockbroker goes broke, you're fucked. Period. Where is everything? You don't own nothing. You own digits on a screen. You're giving him money to own digits on a screen. They give you the illusion you own something. If you cash out now, at least, let's say you buy it, you get 20%. You take your profits from the last few years that have been, stock market being really high. Even if you were just in any one of the indexes, you should have made pretty good gains over that time period. I would highly recommend you look at where you're at, where things are going, the uncertainty in the world, not especially with tariffs. And I'm not saying tariffs are a bad thing. What I'm saying is Donald Trump is changing the game. The problem is nobody knows what the rules are yet. Not even the big boys. The big players don't even know what the rules are yet. So if you don't know what the rules are yet and you don't know where it's going, I would highly recommend you take 20% of your gains and get them out of the stock market. And then you might say, well, where do you go? Again, it's pretty obvious to me where you go. You go to gold. Now, silver is a play, don't get me wrong. Silver is a play, but again, whether silver comes into a realm of being money again, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I don't think anybody can be certain that that would happen. Maybe it will circulate locally as a currency. Maybe it'll, depends on how bad things get. I think we're going to have a digital system that at least through country to country, things are going to be traded over the blockchain, more open, more honest, less buried bullshit. Internally, hopefully we have, let's say that most everything is traded over the blockchain. I think with our Constitution, I think it'll be open. It's got the possibility of being open and clear, and again, not so much bullshit involved. And then maybe your cash will be gold and silver. It's not going to be the dollar. I'll tell you that right now. And in fact, I think gold will be so valuable that it won't even be, that'll be generational wealth. It will not be something you spend. If you need money or currency at the time, whatever that currency is, I think you're going to be able to borrow against your gold. In fact, there's cases where you can do that right now. You can borrow, instead of selling your gold for the currency of today, you can actually borrow against your gold at a very low interest rate because you've got substantial collateral there, and then basically pay yourself back, and it's way in and out of that trade without getting rid of your gold, and that's going to be important in the future. I don't think most people see it that way. They're thinking they're going to have to spend their gold to support their lifestyle. The problem is that comes to an end. At some point, whatever you've got stacked, no matter how good you are or how much you've stacked, it comes to an end. However, if you borrow against that gold, that could very easily be generational wealth that you can hand down. The numbers, you look at gold and, 25 years ago at $300 and today at $3,300. Most people, if we could go take a time machine back to 2000, 2001, nobody would see gold going to $3,300. And basically what that's saying is nobody could see the dollar being so devalued that gold could ever get to $3,300. Most of these people are talking about, gold can go to $10,000, $20,000, $40,000, $160,000. at some point the markets will crash, the COMEX will crash, the LBMA will crash, and they will no longer set the price of gold and silver. And at that point, maybe the government does. They set the price of gold and silver. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It's happened in the past. Um, will gold and silver be set to a rate of, let's say, 20 to 1? I think so. I think if it's in the past, what has worked for thousands of years, gold was at a certain value, whatever that was, and silver was 1/20th of that roughly over the years. It's been one in 20, a gold to silver ratio of 1 to 20. It's been 1 to 15. It's been anything along that lines, but I think you'll see it be at least a 1 to 20. Maybe it'll even be as low as 1 to 10 or 1 to 12. It's coming out of the ground right now, 1 to 7. However, I think what we'll find in the near future, but it'll take 10 to 15 years to get there, we'll go after pure gold, silver mines a lot harder than we have in the past. And places that it didn't make sense because they're too hard to get to or whatever, silver will get to a price level that it'll make sense to build roads to those places, and therefore eventually bringing the price of silver to something that's reasonable. But the only way that those places are going to get mined, silver's got to go crazy first. And you take crazy wherever the hell you want to. I'm not going to put a dollar figure on it. The dollar is irrelevant. But silver will go to a point that it makes sense to mine those areas that prior to that did not make sense. So, and the same thing with gold. Trump is talking about a lot of deregulations. Well, a lot of what that will be is out west, where we do have a lot of gold and silver, copper, and to rebuild this country, that's exactly what we're going to need. We're going to need gold and silver as collateral, more so than silver as a conductor. There's other things out there that are good conductors, but right now silver makes more sense. But when silver gets expensive enough, those other conductors that maybe not work as well will be used. They're just the way it is. Things shift as time goes on, but we'll need gold and silver as collateral. Right now, I've been fighting with myself a ratio of 1 to 102, 1 to 100, somewhere in there. It seems like it would be a no-brainer to just stack silver right now, especially if you got a halfway decent gold position. It seems like that would be a no-brainer. Well, I guess that depends. I don't know how fast this thing's going to go. It's obvious that gold is on a run, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. And, some of the good reasons for that is turmoil. What do we have? We have turmoil. We have uncertainty. We've got the bond market here a week ago when everything took a shit, including gold and silver, but not near as bad as stocks. The bond market, a flight to safety. The bond market, the prices of bonds should have went down, where a lot of people, sold out on stocks, went to bonds. Means you got a lot of bidders. That means the price of bonds go down. It didn't do that. It actually went up. What that tells me was that the flight to safety was not bonds, it was gold. And then shortly right after gold took a small dip, silver took a pretty good dip. Silver's making its way back slow, more or less. And gold is on the move again. Over the last day or two, it's consolidating. Some people are taking profits, whatever. It's taking a breather. It went up so fast that, it needs to take a breather and build structure, actually. But the important thing to see in that place is that the bond markets was not the flight to safety. Over the couple days or over the weekend, that past weekend after bonds took a shit, Central banks across the world went back and propped them back up, so now they're looking okay. That's just an illusion. Uh, when things happen fast, you see reality. If you're looking, you'll see reality. If you're not paying attention, that little blip on the screen where bonds actually went up in price, uh, and not down like they should have, that's the tail. That's the true tail. Now give that a few days, it's brought back up. You may not have even noticed that they caught a bid, or they didn't catch a bid. You may not even notice that, or you might say, well, see, there's somebody's buying in. Yeah, central banks are buying in. They got to prop up the bond markets across the world to keep up the fake illusion of the dollar or the yen or the peso or whatever. So they just did an end run on bonds. That's all they did. They're propping the system up, making it look good. It's the same reason why silver's still down. They got to keep it down to keep the fiat currencies going. When you see when you see silver doing the same thing or even more, like you're seeing gold doing, bond market, the dollar, the peso, the yen, the fiat currencies, in other words, are done. They're right around the corner. At that point, when silver's going up as fast as gold has been going up, we're at the end. Fiat currency is done. For now, fiat currency still got a little lifespan left. But the other thing to think about is the stock market. If you look into it, you'll find out that the big players are selling out of the stock market. The big guys like Bezos, he's selling his stocks in Amazon. Jamie Dimon's selling stocks, and again, I think I heard multiple millions. I don't remember the exact number, but you can look it up, I'm sure, on Google and find out how many millions of dollars worth of bonds that Jamie Dimon sold of his bank. Those just things. Not too long ago. Meta or Facebook owner, he sold millions of dollars. The other thing I want to talk about is gold. Recently, I've been hearing, but apparently I either heard it wrong or they were saying it wrong, that the Chinese were allowing their insurance companies to buy as much as 1% of their portfolio into gold, and that's what I've been hearing. But I've got a correction on that. The correction of the guys in the know, especially the big gold guys that have been really following the gold. It's not the allowance of up to 1%. It is actually the mandate of having at least 1% of their portfolio into gold. That is huge. That is huge. Alasdair Macleod is one of the guys I was listening to, and the banks are backing them up, are saying even without that, the tailwinds are going to push gold to $4,000 by the end of the year. And with that tailwind of the Chinese insurance companies buying no less than 1%, and that means if they've now got the opportunity to buy gold and put it in their portfolio, which they didn't have before, he's saying with 1%, that's going to push gold up another $500 an ounce by the end of the year. Well, if they've now got the ability, and I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was a mandate of, or not a mandate, but of the allowance of buying up to 1%, but not the exact opposite, but even more so than that, the mandate, not the allowance of, but the mandate that they must buy 1% or more is possible to buy gold and put it in their portfolio. And then for the insurance companies, the price of gold per ounce doesn't mean shit. They know where it's going. So, in fact, they're driving the market higher. So why not? And if 1% is a mandate, why not make it 5%? Everything else in the portfolio is falling. You take, if you're out there and you're buying bonds and bonds are falling unless they're propped up, if you're out there and you're buying commercial real estates and commercial real estate's falling, you're out there buying housing and housing's falling, especially in the Chinese market. It's gone to shit like you can't even believe. We're not getting the whole truth on that, but it's a total freaking disaster. These are all reasons to own gold. I guess I can't make it any clearer than that. And again, in chaos and uncertainty and war are all good reasons to buy gold and get out of the dollar, whether that dollar is in the stock market or that dollar is in the bond market. Get out of that at least 20%. Get your, whatever your portfolio is at the end of the day. If it's $1,000, if you're $1,000 in the green or you're $100,000 in the green, at least get 20% of what you've got as a portfolio, no matter how small or how large. Get at least 20% in the gold. It's not going to make you rich. What it's going to do is keep you from going broke. Everything else in a huge change has the potential to go into zero. Not everything's going to zero. The problem is you don't know what's going to zero. What are the rules? What are they going to look like? Nobody has a freaking clue. You watch all the advisors out there on YouTube. They're a little bit more sensible than most, I think, a little bit more sensible, but they're still telling you the play is the stock market if you do it right. How the fuck do they know? They have no idea. We haven't seen a situation like this in over 100 years. We are changing our monetary system. So they don't have a fucking clue. Even if you go back to the last monetary change, the world was totally different then than it is today. So it's not going to look exactly like that. In other words, nobody knows what the rules are. In fact, Trump's negotiating with these other countries. As you negotiate, you're setting the rules. But even then, you don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the day. And what everybody's reaction. Okay, here's the rules, but now what's your reaction to the rules? Everybody's going to have a different perspective depending on where you're from. In the past, I've used things like guns. I'd buy guns, hold on to guns, wait for them to go up in value. And recently, what I've looked at, and I bought them right, held them for 4 or 5 years, watched the market turn, and those guns go up in value significantly. Then I would turn those guns and then go to something else, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Well, I look at it this way. If I would have go back to the year 2000 and I bought a gun for $250, $250 that is, could I expect that firearm to be worth $3,300 today? I'd say not one of them. Not one of them would be close. And in fact, if I wasn't watching gold and I bought a gun in the year 2000, and it's a commodity. If you don't think a firearm's a commodity, come on around to my side of the game. Firearms are a commodity more so than anything. If any one of those guns I would have bought, that I could have bought, knowing what I know, buying the best, or what I thought would be the best, what would go up the most, even if I could pick them all right off the top, I was 100% correct. I would be over the moon excited if I could find a gun that I bought guns in 2000 that were now at 500 or even 750. I'd be over the moon happy with that. But if I'd have take that same $250 and invested it in an ounce of gold in the year 2000, and now it's worth 3,300, that was a no-brainer. Well, that is in what you might call normal times. They were abnormal actually, but they seem normal. What about the uncertainty of the future? What is gold going to do? Until everything settles out, and this may take 10 years or more to settle out. I think we got a 10-year bull run on gold at least. And what you're looking at is everything's got to be reset. Where the currency is overvalued, the stocks and bonds are overvalued. You take, or debt, in the case of bonds, I mean, our debt is overvalued. In fact, it has no value, so that's going to zero. We'll see how that plays out. But stocks are overvalued, housing's overvalued, commercial properties are overvalued. That's all got to be reset. Well, what's that reset? That's deflationary. In other words, everything's got to come back to the mean. It's got to be like Warren Buffett is looking for a value investment. He wants a stock to come back to a normal PE ratio that has true value, that you can count on a certain amount of return, whatever that looks like at the end of the day, whatever that amount of return is. And that's why he's basically, I mean, he's not totally out of the stock market. He's in short-term treasuries at the moment, but that's why there is no value. There's no value investment right now, so he's not in. He's not a player at this time. He's waiting for it to turn. So at any rate, I think right now gold is a play. My gut is telling me to be all in on silver. At the end of the day, for me, the only reason to be in silver is to eventually turn it to gold when the gold to silver ratio goes to a certain level. And I'll know that level when it gets here. Just a rough idea in my head is around 40 to 1. And I know a lot of guys are going to say I'm crazy. It's never going to get to 40 to 1. I believe it is. In fact, I believe it's going to get to be a lot less than that, even though that might be short term. My only problem with that is, okay, if I want to take that silver at some point, let's say 40 to 1, and I take 20% of my silver and trade it for gold, will the gold even be available? Will you be able to buy it at any price? I don't know. So does it make sense to stack more silver? I don't know. Probably one of the most reasonable things I've heard out there. The Market Sniper was talking the other day. What he's doing right now is, let's say he's got $1,000 to invest in the gold and silver precious metal sector. He's doing $750 or 75% to gold, $250 to silver, or a 75-25 split in value, not weight, in value, or price, I should say, not value, in price. So he'll take that, like I said, he'll take the $1,000, $750 into gold, $250 into silver, knowing full well that silver should catch up. It will. It'll catch up, and its gains will surpass gold. And that's fine, but if you want to take them gains, and that's my plan, is to take them gains at some point when the gold to silver ratio gets low enough, I want to turn that silver into gold. And like I said, what if the gold's not there? What if nobody's willing to get rid of it? Or you've got to pay such an extravagant price to get physical that it doesn't make sense, that you just wind up holding on to your silver. Of which it is going to increase in value, but at some point it's going to come back around again, where I don't think gold is. I think gold's going to go to a level, whatever that level is, especially at the point where the fiat currencies break. At that point, gold is going to have its value. It's going to have the most, monetary value or trading value, however you want to look at it, than silver will. And so God only knows how that's going to play out. If we get to the point of breakage, and I think we will, then I think all bets are off, and most people aren't going to get rid of physical for any price. They're going to do just like I'm saying, hold on to that bitch for dear life, and borrow against it, but you're not gonna spend it. You're not gonna trade it. At that point, I think at that point you'll see gold coming from everywhere, as far as jewelry and scrapping, computer boards and electronics and whatever else. The value will be at a point where it makes sense to do those things, especially computer boards and that, to get the gold and silver out of them. It'll really make sense when gold is at a neck break level. It'll really make sense at that point to extract. So I don't know. I think my thoughts are just keep working on stacking gold. As I come across some more silver that is at spot, I guess I can't help myself. I'll still be stacking some silver, but I'm not really concentrating on it at this point. I'm thinking, and again, I stack scrap gold at spot. Right now, if you wanted to buy an Eagle, American Gold Eagle, you'd probably be paying roughly $100 over spot. And if you want to, and most people can't afford to get off of $3,400, can't come up with that kind of money, so they're actually stacking 1/10 ounce. They're stacking now on the new. I think you're going to see a lot of people have been stacking 1/10 ounce. I think you're going to see that drop to 1/20 ounce. And if you're paying attention, you'll see that the 1 gram bars are really catching hold. That's just where the public is right now. The public is broke. They've got too much debt. They've got too little savings. The things they theoretically own, they don't own. The bank owns them, so they can't even cash any of that out, saying, well, I got this old pickup truck around. I ain't using it. Might as well sell it and buy some gold. They don't even have that. All they have is debt, for the most part. So with that being said, that's my story about gold for today. That's where I'm at, stacking scrap gold. I will continue to stack scrap gold as long as I can. I don't think there's no upper limits as far as comparing dollars to gold. The upper limits are going to be when gold is no longer available, and I think where that day's coming as well. So until then, whatever it takes, to stack more gold, that's what I'm doing. Also working on my preps. Not getting crazy in the ammo line. In the past, I would stack a lot of ammo, figuring that, if nothing else, times get tough, you can double your money. Well, I think gold's going way past that. So right now, I'm just making sure my preps are good. As far as ammunition's concerned, I got a little more than I think I need. I'll probably go a little heavier there, but nothing crazy. And just keep working on stacking gold the best I can. And again, I'm going scrap gold, paying no premiums. It's all about putting on weight. It doesn't matter the quality of gold. It doesn't have to be an American Eagle. That's all bullshit. It doesn't have to be pre-33 gold, because if they want to confiscate gold, I don't give a fuck what you got. They're going to come after it. My personal feeling is they don't need to come door to door looking for gold. They're going to get it to a price that most consumers they're going to let it go. They're going to have to let it go, because at some point, they're going to lose their house, or their car even. Well, if they need their car to go to work, they're going to sell their gold. At some point beyond that, they're going to need to try to save their house. And so they'll sell their gold to get, to try and save their house. At the end of the day, they'll lose that too. If you're levered up, I mentioned this in one other video back in the day. I talking to my grandfather. We must have been talking about it, the depression in schools. The only reason I could think I brought it up. And I asked him what the depression was all about. And to make it really short, at the end of the day, he said, I don't know. He said, we were so poor we didn't know the difference. It didn't really matter. They weren't into stocks. They didn't have any money in the bank, so it really didn't freaking matter. He said the only real difference from us and the neighbors were our farm was paid for and theirs weren't. And anybody that didn't have a paid for farm lost it. That pretty much sums it up. If you're in debt, you think you own a house, you don't. If you're in debt and you think you own a car, you don't. Now is the time to start to pivot. And even a while ago, but now is a good time to start to pivot towards real value, and that is gold. Somewhat on silver, but if funds are limited, buy gold. It's a sure bet. You're not going to have to wait as long as you would on silver. Good luck. Have a great day. Like and subscribe. Please leave a comment. Appreciate the comments. I know it's been a while since I've been on, but I've been just devouring a lot of information. Things are turning fast, and don't want to sound like an idiot. Just basically repeating all the crap everybody else is talking. Want to give it time to kind of sort it all out, and as I do that, and I think I can make sense of what's going on, I'll bring it back to you again. Again, good luck, guys. Have a good one. Bye.